Hi there, and welcome back to Joshua chapter 11. And the story is, thus far in the chapter, is that all these kings are allied together against the people of Israel. They've come together perhaps through fear of what might happen to them if they fought Israel one by one. And they think that in the coming together, in the grouping, if you like, the numbers will be so large that Israel will be defeated. And the Lord said to Joshua, we read this last week, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And we can give our fear over to God and say, God, this is how I feel naturally. I have a natural fear rising up in me, but I ask, Lord, that you would take that fear and deal with that, because you're promised to be with me. We talked last week about the promises of God. So verse 7, Joshua, believing what God has said, says this, all his fighting men traveled to the water near Merom and attacked suddenly. And the Lord gave them victory over their enemies. The Israelites chased them as far as Greater Sidon, Mishrefoth Maim, and eastward into the valley of Mizpah, until not one enemy warrior was left alive. Then Joshua crippled the horses and burned all the chariots as the Lord had instructed. And that rather macabre ending there, crippling the horses presumably so they can't be used to fight anymore. And the terrible slaughter of the people is something which our modern sensibilities naturally rebel against. We feel this is somewhat excessive. And yet these are people who had purposely set themselves up against the purposes of God. And victory came to the Israelites once again. You know, they could look back on a history of victory after victory after victory. And a few times when they had turned their backs on God, they could look back on their defeat. And I believe that as we look to the future, part of the confidence that we have as we look forward is to look back and say, look what God has done in my past. Hitherto has the Lord helped me. Look at what has happened in my history that can give me confidence as I look to the future. You know, all our futures are unknown to people and known to God. But our past can give us an indication of what God will do in the future. We've seen God be victorious before. We will see God be victorious again. And I want to encourage you in this strangest of times that the God who has proved himself to be faithful in times past in our own lives and in the lives of those that we honor and respect and in the times of the Bible is still faithful and able to do all that he has promised. So be encouraged that God is with you and he will bring victory once more into your life.